First topic in lesson 8 is area of rectangles and squares. And this is just an overall review of what you've had before, just to make sure you're understanding it. But it also takes it into some types of problems that are a little bit more complicated and maybe you haven't gotten in the past. So it's important that you really watch and the examples and replay this if you need to. First of all, let's talk about how you find the area of a rectangle or how you find the area of a square. This is something that you need in your notes. Now, the area of a rectangle, we find it by taking the length times the width. Now, notice when we talk about area, if I have a rectangle, area is how much is covered in here. For example, if you were finding the area of the floor in your living room at home, if you were going to get carpet for that floor, that's area. Now, if you were finding the distance around that floor, maybe you're putting some strips of trim around it or whatever, that's perimeter. Area is how much is covered. So for a rectangle, you take the length times the width. Now the area of a square, if we have a square, we know a square, each side has the same length. So each side, let's say this side has a length of S and this side has a length of S. So really, when we hear the area of a square, you take a side and you square it. You take a side, if each side was 7, you take 7 squared, or 49. That's the area of that square. Now you might want to just remember it as simply taking the length times the width. You can't go wrong with the formula of length times width for a square. But that also applies to a rectangle. Take the length times the width. Now one last thing I want to mention is if I have this rectangle, and let's say that this rectangle is, let's say 5 feet by 9 feet. Now to find the area of it, I'm going to take the length times the width, or in other words 5 times 9, and I get 45. Now area is in square units. It's square feet. I can either say 45 feet squared or 45 square feet. Now you need to understand and make sure you're clear what a square foot is. Our answer says we need 45 of those square feet to cover this rectangle. Now what's a square foot? Well, a square foot, if this were drawn to scale, it's a square and it's 1 foot on each side. That is a square foot. It would take 45 of these to cover a rectangular room that's 5 feet by 9 feet. It would take 45 of those, if that were drawn to scale, to cover that rectangular room. That's what we mean by square feet. So, area is always in square units. Let's take a look at example 1. It says find the area of the rectangle. And I want you to write this one down in your notes. So I've got a rectangle that's 12 feet by 7 feet. Well, to find the area of the rectangle, we simply take the length times the width. Now, does it matter what if I say 12 is the length and 7 is the width, or vice versa, does it matter? No, because the order you multiply doesn't make a difference. So you're going to take 12 times 7, and you get 84. And how are we going to label that? Let's see. This is in feet, so it's square feet or feet squared. Example 2, find the area of the square. Now, since a square, each side's the same, I can use the formula where you take a side, you square it. So I can take 6 and square it. How do you square a number? You take the number times itself. What's 6 squared mean? It's 36. And here it's going to be inches squared. Or you can take 6 times 6, the length times the width, and you get the same answer. All right, example 3, this is the type of problem that really we're getting to. Find the area of the figure. Now, what do we have here? Is that a perfect rectangle, this figure? Or is it a perfect square? I don't think so. So how do you find the area of it? And sorry to say, if you were finding, if you needed to find the area of a room in your house, it's probably not going to be a perfect rectangle or a perfect square. you very well could have rooms in your house that are kind of like this shape. So how are you going to find the area of it when it's not a perfect rectangular square? Well, you got to divide it into rectangles and squares. So for example, how about if I drew a line across this way and we separated it into this rectangle, and then I'm going to put in a different color this rectangle. So I have two rectangles. Now I'll find the area of each rectangle and then add the two parts together. So in the blue rectangle, it's 2 by 3. So in the blue rectangle, it's 6. It's 6 centimeters squared. Now how about the red rectangle? It's 6, right? Down at the bottom. It's 6 by what? Now this part you got to try to figure out. So what's the dimension of it there? Well, I know that the 5 represents this whole thing. And if this part is 3, 3 plus what is 5? Well, this has to be 2, doesn't it? So the red rectangle at the bottom is 6 by 2, so it's 12 centimeters squared. Now add the two parts together and you get 18 square centimeters or centimeters squared. Now the point I want to make here is you didn't have to separate it the way I did. I went across. How about if we would have separated it the other way? So how about if we would have separated it straight down like this? Well, find the area of this rectangle in the blue, and then let's find the area of this rectangle in the red. And you're going to have the same type of situation. Now remember, we got an answer of 18. I'm going to erase this from the previous example. All right, in the blue, what's the dimensions of the blue? It's 5 by 2. That's 10 centimeters squared. How about the red? It's 4 by 2, which we've already figured out, right? Because 3 plus 2 add up to the whole length there. So it's 4 by 2, which is 8 centimeters squared. Now add the two parts together. Notice we get the same answer. It doesn't matter how you split it up. All right, example 4. I'm going to go a little faster through this one. Let's split this irregular figure up. All right, it doesn't matter how you do it. I'm just going to drop a line straight down. All right, so I've got this blue rectangle, which we'll find the area of, and we've got this black rectangle, which we'll find the area of. All right, let's find the area of the black rectangle first. It's 9 by 5. It's 45, and it's inches squared. Okay, let's find the area of the blue one now. It's 6 by 2, which is 12 inches squared. Now add the two parts together. 45 and 12, I get 57 inches squared, and that's the area. That's how much is covered in this irregular shape. Now you could have divided the figure the other way. So instead we could have went instead of dropping a line down like this, we could have went across, and we could have had a rectangle here, this whole rectangle, and then this whole rectangle on the top. This would be a good problem for you to do. Try it that way. See if you get the 57. You should. All right, example 5. Now, this time we have a shape that looks like this. You have a shape within a shape. It says find the area of the shaded portion. Now, by the shaded portion, we mean the black. So this might be that might be a pool in the backyard, and maybe everything in black is concrete, and then you might have the actual pool part right here. This is your pool, and obviously it wouldn't be in millimeters, but in this problem here, it's labeled as millimeters. So you want to find out how much concrete or the black you need to put down. All right, here's how you do this. Find the area of the whole thing. So in other words, what I mean is find the area of this whole big rectangle. Do the big part first. And let's see, it's 10 by 8, that's 80 millimeters squared, isn't it? Subtract the inside part. So now subtract the area of this inside part. Let me put this in a different color. So subtract this part. subtract the area of that. Okay, what's the area of that inside part? It's 6 by 2, so that's 12 millimeters squared. And let's see, 80 take away 10, 70, 68 millimeters squared. So in other words, once you take the area of the whole thing and take away the middle part, what's left over is the shaded part. Another example. Okay, find the area of the shaded portion, or in other words, the black. So first thing we do, find the area of the whole thing. What's the area of this whole thing? It's 12 by 8. So 12 by 8, what do we get on that? 96. So 96 millimeters squared. Now what do? Subtract the middle part. Subtract the area of the middle. It's 5 by 4, which is 20 millimeters squared. 76 millimeters squared is the area of the black, or the shaded area. All right, so what I wanted to do here is just really break down area, because I know you've had area before, but I really wanted to break down, make sure you understand the concept of area, and then go over a little bit more complicated problems using that.